Here we go. So welcome everyone to the second annual Golden Award Film Award show. It's the Oscars. We all know it's the Oscars. What are they going to do? Sue the public library in New Hampshire? I'd like to see them try.
Eventually, we'll see how far we get.
Look, they already have some bad PR from last year. They really want to make it worse. But yeah, this is the Super Bowl for film fans. And it's Hollywood's biggest night, as it were. So I'm here with Mark, and we are going to talk about some topics from last year, some topics for this year, who we think will win, who we think should win, and of course, as we are not entirely in agreement with each other, there will be disagreements. You got to get spicy on some of them.
Yes, I can't wait.
All right, and Todd is going to be fresh off the Audi stage in Concord from his debut in the 39 Steps, and he finally doesn't have to rush off to rehearsal anymore. Todd is moderating
for now, but yes.
Yeah, he's gonna go back. He caught the acting bug, but like I think everyone in that show, with one exception, was like, yeah, I can't do two in a row.
I mean, to be fair, even the one exception he initially wasn't going to, he basically got scouted.
Yeah. All right. So, Todd, would you like to get us started with the first? Actually, before you get started, I printed out the Rotten Tomatoes ballot, and they have the both the audience and the critic score. Man, I knew Blonde was poorly received. I didn't know it was that poorly received.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about because everybody likes her and everybody hates it. Like, if you notice, she's the only thing not up for the Raspberry in that movie.
I would want to be a fly on the wall for that discussion at the Netflix office as the reviews were coming in, and what they thought was going to be their awards titan turned out to be one of the biggest cinematic misfires of the year.
Well, I mean, maybe you shouldn't base your movie on a book that clearly had a contempt for Marilyn Monroe, and maybe don't get a director that clearly had a contempt for Marilyn Monroe.
I don't get offended often, but the movie suggests something about Zucker, which has never been suggested anywhere. Yeah. Like, I tried to do research and I tried to find anywhere an accusation about Zucker. So that was inappropriate. That was unprofessional, inappropriate. And the movie exploits Ana de Armas. I mean, I feel bad for her. It's
and
like she got into this movie and then what?
Not the fun kind of exploitation.
Not the fun. No. There's different kinds of exploitation. Yes.
Yes. It's exploitation, not in a fun way.
It's the bad exploitation.
Yeah, no, I basically, I looked at that, and I also, maybe I'll give her another shot. I think she's very good in supporting roles. I don't think she's a lead.
I thought she was great in Blade Runner.
But again, supporting.
Yeah, it's like,
well, she's going to be the ballerina in that John Wick spinoff. We'll see how that is, I guess.
Right. Like, the closest prior to say she's been in a good lead was Knives Out. And that's
Knives Out, yeah.
But even that's mainly Daniel Craig carrying that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the first official question. Todd, let's hit it.
So, first things first, as we said, it's been a little under a year, but let's take a step back and look back at that year in question. What did you guys think about last year's winners? Was there anyone you felt strongly either for or against?
All right, Mark, would you like to go first?
Well, I'd say nothing surprising in terms of wins happened last year. Every favorite pretty much took it. You know, it's a surprise that Coda won, but it's not that night because we all figured it was going to happen based on the Guild Awards. Well, it won the Producers Guild, it won the cast ensemble. At that point, especially when Power of the Dog lost everything but director, it was like, well, Coda is going to win here.
I was really holding out that maybe West Side Story could win it.
Oh, I would love that, and I'd love to see Spielberg get something this year, but it's not. I just don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, last year, I think it was just it was a good show up to a certain point, and then it became one of the most memorable Oscars of all time, much like a streak and a talk about Palestine has caused Oscar telecasts to be well known.
What about 20 years ago, Michael Moore's acceptance speech?
He's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, but speaking of memorable, in terms of like,
I don't know. He gave the speech you'd expect to. You know what I mean? The anti-Jane Fonda. It wasn't the really? That's surprising.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I was okay with Coda's win. but just like it's a good enough movie. It certainly wasn't one I didn't think should be there, which I mean, it wasn't like Licorice Pizza. I
Or
did,
for me, Don't Look Up. Yes.
yeah, but yeah, no, it wasn't one where I'd be like, what on earth? But I mean, considering we had two bona fide masterpieces in West Side Story and Drive My Car, it was a little just like, okay, but I mean, the Oscars love nothing more than to pat themselves on the back and be like, look, we awarded a movie that, with representation, which is good. I really don't like when I hear people go like, well, movies are supposed to be a fantasy. And I'm like, so your fantasy means no one with disabilities? That's a little scary. But for me,
So keep in mind, I'm sorry, but keep in mind that Best Picture is not necessarily everyone's favorite movie. It's
yeah, just
the
whatever gets.
consensus pick.
Yeah, but for me, it's my biggest shock is Apple TV clearly did a ton of campaigning, spent a lot of money. It wins Best Picture. It still does not have a physical release. There has
I
been,
have it.
well, I mean, hey, if you can give us a copy, we'll take it. But
No, they made an official one in Italy. You can get it from Italy, and it's 4K, so it's region free.
okay.
Yeah.
Curious.
But there's this movie from like 2019 with Katie Holmes and Anthony Hopkins called Coda, and it has been going out at the library a lot. And I know
I've
it's
noticed
because
that.
people think it's the Best Picture winner, and I'm like, oh, so not only are you not seeing the movie you want to see, but you have to watch Katie Holmes try to act. I'm sorry.
Wasn't there a time where you couldn't call something is like this, like how actors have to change their name? Wasn't there a time where you couldn't have a title that was the same thing?
I believe that because Coda is all capital letters,
It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
Okay, you're right. No, you're got a good point.
yeah,
It's
but yeah,
a
no,
abbreviation.
little underwhelmed by the winner, but it was by no means an undeserving win. I was actually really happy to see Troy Kotzer win best supporting actor.
He gave the best speech too, or one
Yeah,
of the best speeches.
Ariana DeBose, and of course when she paid tribute to Rita Moreno, I was just like,
Yeah.
that was great. For me, my biggest upset of last year was Flea, which if you're not familiar with it, that is the animated film from Denmark about an Afghani refugee. And if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. One of the best films of last year. And it, for me, pushed the boundaries of what you could do with an animated film. Went away empty-handed. I mean, we all knew Best Foreign Feature was going to Drive My Car. Questlove and Summer Soul winning for documentary, 100% deserved. But I'm like, I'm sorry, I get it. We all like Encanto. We all love those songs, but there is no way that's better than Flea. But we all know that for animated, the voters just go with like, what did Disney put out this year? Check, check, check. Like with a few exceptions.
I guess my only issue last year was I was one of the rare people that thought Dune was overrated. I didn't think it was a bad movie, but I didn't think it deserved all that it got, especially score, which is just Egyptian sounding chords one after the other.
I see Todd's face right now, like
this is
Sorry,
not my
Todd.
debate. I am just hanging there, and again, I'll
Sorry,
start
Todd.
like,
if I can speak for Todd, I remember seeing that movie with you, and number one, asking you questions in the first 20 minutes, and you finally going, "I will explain it to you when we're done."
well, in all fairness, it's like this is just gonna keep snowballing. So,
But I could just feel you like tense, and you're just like, please be good, please be good, please be good. And as the film went on, I could feel you kind of being like, oh God, it's not terrible. Oh God, it's actually good.
And again, I think for the awards thing, I'm calling this the Peter Jackson effect of part of why it did so well was like, this was like people thought no one's going to be able to pull this off. And then someone did.
I mean, I'm making a prediction now. I think if part 2 sticks that landing, we may be looking at Denis Villeneuve sweeping the 2024 Oscars.
I don't deny
Depends
that.
what else is on deck.
He's great.
That's always the biggest question. Yep.
All right. But yeah, that's my thought on last year. We'll get to it, but I'm just going to say briefly this year, I think overall, great crop of nominees.
Better than last year.
In terms of the best picture nominees, I can only think of one I'd really swap out. Everything else, I'm like, no, absolutely. Heck yeah.
5 of my top 10 of the year got nominated, which has not happened in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Next question.
Next question.
This is a long one.
Oh boy.
So we've talked about so we're going to get into a lot of what is there this year. So before that, let's start off with what isn't. And there's 2 in particular cases that have been strong talking points here. And the first one, it's going to be regarding one of the nominees for Best Actress. There were a few names that have been batted around, but one that built up a lot of steam behind it to the to both people thinking maybe it's got a shot and people going, this isn't going to happen, was Mia Goth. Because people were, especially after Pearl came out, where she just completely blew people away with this very optimistic, very starry-eyed, psychopathic murderer performance. And there were a lot of people, including even Martin Scorsese, looking going, this is a great performance, but also a lot of people going, if this wasn't a horror film, she'd be a solid lock, but because it's horror. To the point where even she has gone on record saying, like, the Academy needs to kind of get over that bias. Now, they've been getting better with other genres, like they have been a bit more blockbuster friendly in recent years, but do you think they have made any leeway as far as horror, or is that still a genre that's kind of blacklisted, especially considering she is probably at least the fourth in the past decade where people looked and gone, this performance, if it were in any other genre, would be a solid contender?
Yeah. So I since Todd, I know you basically wrote this question for me, I will go first. I mean, the short answer is yes, and it hasn't always been this way. If you even just go on the Wikipedia page and look at past nominees and past winners, the Academy has not always been afraid of horror. The 70s especially, like Exorcist got a Best Picture nomination. Piper Laurie and Sissy Spacek got acting nominations. Ruth Gordon won for Rosemary's Baby in for the 1967 film Rosemary's Baby. So it's not as if, and I mean, clearly we also have Silence of the Lambs doing the big five sweep, and Get Out won in 2017. And then you could make arguments for Misery, which I think Misery kind of fits. And people have argued that No Country for Old Men could be considered a horror film, which, yes and no. I don't know how Cormac McCarthy would really classify it, but you look at the 60s and 70s, and then you look at the years past that, and horror just goes away from the slate. And some of that has to do with the fact that the Academy goes through changes in terms of who votes. But my personal theory is in the early 80s, slashers really started to become the big name in horror, and they were horror got cheaper, horror got more exploitative. And there was also in the early 80s a moral panic about slashers. If you can go on YouTube and find it, Siskel and Ebert, Siskel in particular, were horrified by stuff like Friday the 13th. And Ebert kind of calmed down from it, but there was a bit of a moral panic. And I think that scared a lot of Hollywood away from legitimizing horror. And what's funny is also in the early 80s, a new category came along because they saw a horror movie and they realized we have to give this an award. And that was Rick Baker's work for An American Werewolf in London. But pretty much since then, like a horror movie has to become a full-fledged cultural phenomenon to even get a chance at a nomination, let alone win. And now, even in like the small technical categories, like sound, like makeup, where horror used to be able to get some kind of nomination, they're completely shut out. So I'm going to get to acting in a second, but I would like to show you two instances of makeup from the year of 2022. One was not even shortlisted, one did not make the cut. So the first one I'm going to show is from the movie X. But really hope this comes up quickly. So this is Mia Goth in X. This is also Mia Goth in X. That is the same person. That was all practical makeup effects. Did not even get nominated. And this Crimes of the Future was shortlisted. All practical effects did not get nominated. And yes, it looks gross. However, this is good makeup work. And it seems like the Academy has just gotten really scared of legitimizing horror in any way, or they'll kind of do what they do for other awards where they'll be like, what, we gave you one and now we'll come back in 20 years and give you another one. But yeah, for acting, it's been especially bad because we are in the middle of a horror renaissance. It's been going on for almost 10 years at this point with The Babadook, where a lot of the, I guess, more art-directed, less schlocky and cheap horror has been coming out. And we've had Ari Aster's Hereditary, which gave us an amazing performance by Toni Collette. And I'm sorry, in no world was Lady Gaga's performance in A Star is Born better than that. in 2019, we had two great performances in horror. We had Florence Pugh in Midsommar, and we had Lupita Nyong'o playing two people in Us, and neither of them got nominations. And I mean, Mia Goth would not be my first pick for who I'd sub in for Best Actress, but I think she certainly deserved to be in the conversation. But I mean, if the Academy wants to broaden its appeal, horror is a big community. It's got very loyal followers. Maybe, just maybe, if you start to, at the very least, nominate them for some technicals again, you might get some more eyeballs watching the Oscars. All right, that's my screed. I will let Mark go off.
So last year, Liz's number one acting choice was Nicolas Cage in Pig. That was her big omission. This year, for me, it's Mia Goth and Pearl. I think Mia Goth gave the performance of the year in Pearl. I think that ending
Ooh.
credit sequence is better acting
Yes.
than anything else that's happened this year. I think she totally deserved it, but in terms of horror, it's been a cycle. If you look at the lists of the best movies of the 30s and 40s, Freaks, Dracula, King Kong, Frankenstein. You know what got nominated? Bride of Frankenstein got nominated for sound, I think, and that's it. You know, King Kong didn't get any technical nominations in the 32 or 33. So it happens in cycles. Hollywood doesn't like the fact that horror has saved Paramount twice. It saved Universal and it created New Line. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. For makeup, I agree with both of the things you said. I'd also throw in Terrifier 2 for a scene you can't show because it's so gross and realistic that I'm surprised that movie got an R rating, if it got an R rating.
Yeah. I also argue it was only okay, but the new Hellraiser, but I think that's technically only a TV movie.
That was technically, like we've talked about before,
Yeah.
new rules now. If you're
Yeah.
streaming, you're up for an Emmy.
But
But yeah,
practical effects for Jamie Clayton were great.
but yeah, Mia Goth is my pick for the best performance, not just best actress of the year. So
I mean, I have been walking around my house going, I'm a star.
I also think it should have been up for some music.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
music of that movie is brilliant.
Costume design as well.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just, I find it strange that for a while the Academy, it's actually gotten a little bit friendlier to science fiction, but horror still
And
seems
fantasy, yeah.
which
is a big thing.
To be the one where, and again, I think it's because in the 80s horror became cheap again, and I think they're always, for as much as Hollywood likes to be like we're on the cutting edge, I think they're also very afraid of the moral panic crowd. And granted, now they're sending bomb threats and stuff, so I don't blame them. But
Well, I think what's also funny about these cheap movies of the 80s, cheap movies of the 80s are now mentioned by today's filmmakers as being the things they love.
oh yeah,
I mean, I'm a huge Friday 13th nerd. I love that series.
I mean, Rick Baker won for An American Werewolf in London, deservedly so. But, the very next year, Rob Bottin, who did amazing effects work and makeup work on The Thing, although he would probably be more in visual effects, but The Thing was completely ignored because it was a bomb.
Timing. That was timing, though.
Yeah, it's like we're just in a moment where horror is really good right now and arguably very award worthy. And
he gets recognized years later.
So,
I mean, yeah.
It's just that's where it's frustrating. In the 2000s, I couldn't think of too many movies that I would say horror movies that I'd say deserved Academy Award nomination. But this, from the 2010s on, I'm like, come on, Robert Eggers gave us The Witch, and you're still not recognized.
But we do have this. We do have the Saturn Awards. So
yes, we do.
I just want 2 notes before we go on.
Mhm.
One, The Lighthouse did get a technical nom, although really
true.
either Defoe or Pattinson should have been up for something.
You can't make an Academy Award clip with either of those, though.
And 2, it's funny you mentioned the moral outrage factor, considering one of the closest things to a horror film in the 80s that really actually got some genuine Oscar love was Blue Velvet, which is uncomfortably sexual.
yes, but David Lynch is his own genre.
True.
Come to our David Lynch program this August.
Yes.
All right, next question.
Next question. So, again, one more a noted snub. There's been a lot of discourse over the fact that I know you guys discussed this before we went live, but a lot of the discourse around the fact they feel the movie The Woman King got essentially snubbed. So do you guys think this was a unfair shutout, or do you just think this was others just brought more of their A game this year?
All right.
So I know that you have a question on your list, Todd, and I kind of have to answer it with this one. So I don't know if you want to bring that up at the same time.
Is this
Um,
regarding the other potential snubs this year, or
No, this has to do with the ridiculous controversy over someone getting nominated.
I think they can be separate.
Okay, well, then I'll just say no, there is no controversy. The Woman King is an okay movie. It wasn't bad. Because it was directed by a black woman doesn't mean it gets an Oscar nomination. Sorry, that's just not how it works. It should have been up for costume design.
Hmm.
And honestly, Viola Davis was great. The other lead was better. If you want to get upset that the younger girl wasn't nominated because she was the actual lead of the movie. But she didn't make my top 5, would have made my top 10. Other people were better. The only reason we're talking about this is because publicists who don't get their people nominated don't want to get fired, so they try to find reasons, which will lead into
Yeah.
our next thing, which is the other conversation we'll
Yeah.
have.
stick a pin in
I'm
that
gonna-
one, guys? We'll be back to that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I mean, I was actually very hyped for the Woman King because I'm like, all right, Viola Davis, kicking butt, taking names. And Viola Davis is great. I think the younger girl is great. I actually really like Lashana Lynch and the other actors. I thought great acting in this.
It's a
movie.
good movie.
It is, but it's a perfectly like a B minus. It's
Yeah.
it's. I was actually shocked to see it on a couple of top 10 lists. I'm like, really?
Yeah, well, AFI put it on, didn't they?
Yeah, I was a little.
I was like, really?
I actually like some of Gina Prince Bythewood's movies, but I think she is, as of right now, although she was the old guard was okay, but like she is very good at directing drama. Love and Basketball, Beyond the Lights, both really good films. She does really good work with actors. She is not an action director, and I think this movie kind of showed that this is just not her forte. I felt the action was really poorly directed. I couldn't keep track of what was happening. I thought some beautiful cinematography in it. Your costume was great. But it's just one of a movie where it's like, it's just okay. Now, Gina has gone on saying like, this is this was, and she's not wrong that the Academy has a history of not recognizing films that are made by and about people of color.
Can I make a statement?
The Woman King is not a good example of that. If you want to talk about movies that are by and about people of color that came out last year that I think got snubbed completely, Nope, snubbed for so many things in my book. I thought The Inspection, which was written and directed by Elegance Bratton about a gay black man going into the Marines, I thought that should have been up for a couple of awards. Till, Danielle Deadwyler absolutely should have had a Best Actress nomination.
Can we point out that this list is possibly the most diverse list of nominations the Academy has had in a long time?
Yeah.
It's just diverse in Asian actors
Well,
and
the Academy-
other things aside from what we usually complain about.
To be fair, the Academy, I think, does have this issue of, look, we can only focus on awarding one minority group at a time. I think they do have that, and they do kind of decide of, this is the year we're just going to recognize this group of people.
Or maybe most people voted for Kate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh. I mean, let's be honest, that's what happened.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree with that, but it's like Gina, like Prince Bythewood is like, she is not wrong, but she's really coming across as someone who's like, I expected something and I'm salty.
Which is never a good idea for the Academy.
It's not, it's and granted, some of it is the question is brought up to her, so she just keeps answering, and then of course the outlets like Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they present it in a very different way of like, oh, she's complaining again. But either way, she's it's like, sorry, the movie there was better stuff out this year. And I mean, again, if we want to get mad, let's get mad on behalf of Jordan Peele and Nope. Because god dang, that for me is a snub. All right, next question.
Well, again, kind of going off of this, since we're already starting to go into that, is there anything else you guys feel got essentially hung out to dry this year outside of those two big obvious sticking points?
So I got a whole list.
Wow.
I'm gonna run down this again. Nope got hosed, but in particular, editing, script, I think directing, maybe picture. As much as I loved it, I don't know if it's best picture material. But for me, the big snub is sound editing. If you have watched Nope, the fact that that did not even get shortlisted for sound just baffles me. Don't get it. Dolly De Leon for Best Supporting Actress. I thought she was amazing in Triangle of Sadness, and even people I know who did not like that movie thought she's great. But this year, there's no one who really doesn't belong in Best Supporting Actress. I would actually say RRR for Best Picture. I would take out Avatar 2 and put RRR in. That's I don't get where I don't get where it is. I don't know why India didn't submit it. Speaking of foreign language films,
Oh, there's a political reason, but we can get to that later.
well, Decision to Leave for Best Foreign Language Feature, that was one of my favorites of last year, completely hosed. The Northman for cinematography. Cinematography is not a good category this
Oh my
year.
God, there's 10 movies I would nominate over what got there. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean, Hilder.
Tar for cinematography?
Oh,
Sorry,
I
go
liked
on.
the cinematography.
No, it's a
of Tar.
good movie, but over Nope and all these other ones.
No, that's true, but like I actually appreciate Tar cinematography worked for that movie, but 3,000 Years of Longing for editing, visual effects, production design absolutely could have been nominated for those. You Made It Feel Like Home for Best Original Song from Bones and All. Although now that I'm on the RRR train, I'm like, well, Naatu is gonna take it. Pearl for costume design. I would have loved to have seen Jeremy Pope for Best Actor, but I really can't think of anyone who shouldn't be there. Jeremy Strong for Armageddon Time, Best Supporting Actor. Once again, can't think of anyone that shouldn't be there, but it would have, if it was 6, I would have liked to have seen him. And now my big category for snubs. Best Actress. I think it should have been either Mia Goth or Danielle Deadwyler. Danielle Deadwyler's fantastic in Till. That should have been a star-making performance. And that is a movie is just a good, that's a good example of how you take a very tragic tragic event and make a movie about it without it being exploitative and really focusing on the violence of the situation by making it about Mamie Till and how she grows into an activist from that. But I'm just going to read a list of all the actresses who could be there instead of Ana de Armas, because I'm sorry, Blonde is bad and she's not that good in it. She just pouts and cries. Anywho, Danielle Deadwyler, Mia Goth, Aubrey Plaza for Emily the Criminal, Keke Palmer for Nope, Taylor Russell for Bones and All, Tang Wei in Decision to Leave, Thandiwe Newton in God's Country, and I will say, hey, Viola Davis, if she got nominated for the Woman King, I wouldn't be mad, but they could all be there instead of Ana de Armas. But in particular, Deadwyler and Goth are the two really, I think, kind of like come on, really? All right, Mark, your snubs.
All right, so 10 years from now, the movie we're going to be talking about from this year is RRR. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but RRR is so far and away above everything else that I've saw this year, and I loved the movies this year.
Mhm.
But I'm someone who is done with 3-hour movies. I've seen this film 4 times, and it's flown by every single time I've seen it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this film. How to describe it to someone is very hard. It's like if you in America you took Davy Crockett and Teddy Roosevelt and made a superhero film with them that has random musical sequences that perfectly fit.
Yep.
It's an incredible motion picture that has everything you'd want in a movie, and it's absolutely just magic. And I think it should have been up for way more than best song. You could have it in almost every technical category.
Oh yeah.
Should have it for score. It should definitely be up for picture and director. There's political reasons why they didn't submit it.
Yeah.
Dealing with the different religions in India, unfortunately. Which was a loss because I think RRR would have beaten All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a good movie that is nowhere near as good as the original. Or 1917 for that matter.
Yeah,
But
and it's worth noting that the director of RRR has not quite gone on record as being he's not quite for the BJP, because I mean the political situation in India is one where you have to be very careful about what you say. But I was reading an interview with the New Yorker with him, and he kind of he had like I think some very, if you read between the lines, it's like, yeah, I don't think he endorses some of the more nationalistic rhetoric of the BJP. And it's unfair
I agree with
that
Nope.
That's kept it.
I agree with you on Nope. I think Nope should have been up for everything you mentioned, plus cinematography, especially
Yeah.
cinematography. They really missed the boat on cinematography this year. I know you're not a big fan of them, but I think Avatar, Top Gun, Fablemans, Nope. What else did we mention? RRR. I mean, they nominated Bardo. I think Bardo is so awkward to watch. I hated the cinematography of that movie. And Empire of Light's okay, but Deakins has got 2 Oscars.
Deakins.
He doesn't need to get nominated again. Um,
It's like when they kept nominating Meryl Streep, even for
yeah,
Florence
it's
Foster
exactly
Jenkins.
what it is. Deakins made it, and Williams. If Williams makes a movie, he gets nominated. So,
Mm.
aside from that, I mean, every category has 2 or 3 that I would nominate, so I'm not overly upset about too
Yeah.
much. Like I said, RR was my big disappointment because it was my favorite film of the year.
Yeah. But it's I mean, it's also Hildur, I can never say her name because
Good in a theater,
Gonadottir. She
something
had
like
2
that.
fantastic scores this year, the score to Tar and the score to Women Talking, and she's nowhere in the score category.
The hard thing with the score to Tar is it's combined with other music, so I didn't think she'd get
that was
nominated for
my
that.
thought. But Women Talking, there's
Yeah, a
no.
lot of people thought she was going to win for Women Talking, but didn't even get nominated.
No, it's and I mean, I think director is a strong slate this year, but if I really had to like take someone out, I would be like, don't yell at me. It would have been Spielberg this year.
That's my winner, of course, by
Oh,
far,
see,
without question.
I was a little underwhelmed by The Fabelmans, and for as much as he kind of put it as it's a very personal movie, I felt I got much more of a personal feel out of West Side Story than I did The Fabelmans.
I loved both equally. I thought it was a beautiful movie about filmmaking and growing up in that area, which I lived there around that area for 8 years. It just looks, I just loved it.
Yeah, there's some like it's not a poorly made movie, but I would put in Peele and Sarah Polley in a heartbeat, just like sorry or
Rajamuli,
yeah.
however you pronounce his name.
Yeah, no, this. I feel like the Oscars, like last year, the technicals were all kind of on point, and the acting was like, "What are these nominations this year?" Acting nominations are like, "Heck yeah!" And then the technicals are like, "What happened here?"
There is one technical I do want to mention, though. I'm very happy with score this year. I loved the score to Babylon.
Yes,
I
I did
love
too.
the score to Banshees of Inisherin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very low key, but I really do like John Williams' score for The Fabelmans. I'll be happy with any of them winning. I don't understand this, but right now Variety and Hollywood Reporter are predicting All Quiet, which is again just noise for the entire movie.
Netflix.
What? All
Quiet was basically Netflix's plan B after Blonde imploded on them.
Yeah, but there's so many good scores. I'll be so mad if that wins.
Yeah, I liked the score to Pearl too. Like the
I loved it.
soundtrack to that was again, you'd think with Martin. I also, before we go on, I don't want to hear anyone call Martin Scorsese a snob anymore because people constantly go because he doesn't like Marvel movies. That man has come out for horror multiple times in the past few years. He is a man of the people.
Kevin Smith kind of buried that argument because he said, "Okay, he doesn't like Marvel movies. I have a lot of friends who don't like musicals. What do you want?"
That too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question, Todd.
Okay, so it's
round time.
As I say, now we come into we talked about like overall approval of the slate. Who do you think is gonna win? Who are you pulling for to win?
What category?
Basically, we're just kind of like we're gonna go like the biggies, so best picture, best director, and the acting categories.
All right.
Or if there's any other others where you really feel strongly about one of the contenders for the other categories, we can touch on that after.
All right. So best picture is first. Mark, who do you want to win?
Okay, so I would vote for Top Gun Maverick. I think Top Gun Maverick to me is like the Shawshank Redemption. I think that is a movie that for the rest of my life, when it shows up on TV, I will watch wherever it's on to the ending. I'm a huge fan of Cobra Kai. I'm a huge fan of Creed and Creed 2.
Yeah.
And what they all did and Top Gun Maverick did was take something that really was cartoonish and completely elevated it in an unexpected way. And I just think it's far and above the best of the list. I loved Avatar 2. It doesn't have a chance to win. It got in at 10th. I loved Banshees. I loved Fabelmans. And I loved Women Talking. All 5 of those I thought totally deserved it. I really liked Triangle and I really liked Tar.
Mm-hmm.
All Quiet's okay. Hated Elvis.
Oh, actually, yeah.
I liked Austin Butler. I just thought it was noise. Not a fan.
Baz Luhrmann is a maniac and he's not for everybody. So I'm like,
I love Moulin
that's
Rouge,
fine.
but I love Moulin Rouge, but I hated Elvis. And then there's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere All at Once will win Best Picture. It will win probably 7 Oscars this year. It is one of the worst movies that will ever win Best Picture. I took a look at
Oh,
the
come
list
on.
of 95 movies that have, including this, which will win Best Picture, and I
Mm-hmm.
have it at 92. It's better than Gigi, it's better than Million Dollar Baby, and it's better than Out of Africa, and that's it. Aside
Oh,
from
I
that,
don't agree.
You're putting
this
Crash ahead of
movie,
that? That's a controversial pick right there.
As
yes, I am.
Tatiana would say, choices.
This movie with the multiverse, not only does it not do it as well as Marvel, it doesn't do it as well as DC, and that's an
Mhm.
insult because DC doesn't do the multiverse very well. Who knew that Spider-Man No Way Home would have had a chance for Best Picture if only they had hot dog fingers? The geniusness of hot dog figures is going to get these idiots a screenplay Oscar.
Oh, how
I'm
dare
sorry.
you.
I hate this movie. I've watched it twice because I'm
I-
out of the loop. I'm out
You
of the
tried.
club. And the
Mhm.
second time, hated it more. That's my spiel.
I mean, it's I'm gonna give you this, at least you tried.
Yeah,
At least you
twice.
tried. I liked Everything Everywhere. It was one of my favorite movies of last year. I liked it because I'm like, whether or not you like, for me, once I looked past the multiverse and just saw a story of someone just trying to be okay with where they are in life. And I do wonder if it's a generational thing, because a lot of people in the millennial generation do kind of have this feeling of like, am I living up to what my parents think I should be? Am I living up to my own potential? Did I screw up my life with this one choice? I feel like there are a lot of people who do kind of relate to that. And I appreciated that movie for that feeling. I I don't want to get too personal, but I watched that movie and I had recently kind of had a fight with I'm just not going to say who, a family member, where I kind of said something similar to the daughter of like, maybe we
Mm.
should just cut ties and leave. And a few weeks later, I saw that movie and kind of the way that scene resolves itself. And the fact that it's essentially a family realizing, no, we do love each other. And maybe if we just talked to each other, we could maybe become closer. I thought that was really sweet. I thought the way that Evelyn Michelle Yeoh's character, the way it showed how she projected all of her insecurities onto her daughter and onto her husband and onto other people, I thought was really well done. And I do get how the multiverse framing device is not for everybody, but I think once you look past it, it is a story about a woman finding peace with herself. And I really liked that. And again, it's not for everybody, but I would rather have a movie that does have some divisive opinions, or that is a little bit divisive win, than a movie that just pleases everybody. But that
I
is
will
because-
give it credit for one thing,
Okay.
because I gave it nothing but negative reviews. I
Yeah.
am rooting for Key.
Oh, heck yeah.
I thought he was the highlight of the film for me.
Mhm.
And while I loved Barry Keoghan and Banshees, um, seeing Key at the acceptance,
Oh, yeah.
accepting all the awards he's won, it's hard. I that would be one of those things where I'm like, I might think Barry Keoghan might have given a better performance, but I can't not vote for Key. He's just such a sweetheart, and I'll just love it if he goes up on stage and he yells out "Fortune and Glory," but I'm sure he won't.
Aw, but yeah, no, I'm pulling for Everything Everywhere. I do like Banshees. I do like Women Talking, and I loved Tar. Tar I actually liked more than Everything Everywhere.
I thought you liked Tar. I thought Tar was gonna be your pick. Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of like these four. These four,
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely yes. Maybe honestly, if Triangle of Sadness won, I wouldn't be mad either, because I think that movie.
The back half's the best part of the movie. But
Yeah,
it's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
it's a little weak at front, but yeah, those are the four I'd really be like okay with winning. But yeah, Everything Everywhere is gonna win. I do not agree with you that it's one of the worst winners. I do think, whether you like it or not, a movie that took a big swing like this in terms of storytelling, I think it's a very good sign that this is getting noticed by the Academy, because 15 years ago it wouldn't have been. And I think this is a sign of like the fact that we have such a diverse slate of nominees too. It's like, oh, the Academy Awards are getting better. And the fact that more, standard Oscar bait like The Woman King isn't getting in, I'm like, I think this is a sign that, the Academy's getting a bit more, is looking in different directions. So I will agree to disagree on Everything Everywhere, but we'll all be united in our love of Ke Huy Quan.
One supporting actor that I forgot to mention in my, not a snub because no one was talking about him,
Yeah.
but I think Mark Maron should have been nominated for To Leslie.
Mark Maron deserves good things.
Well, he always plays such a jerk. And he's the nicest guy in that movie, and he pulls it off. And I was just like, wow, I've never seen him in a likable role before.
I mean, if you listen to WTF, you're like, the guy is at his core a nice guy. He's just very wounded.
He's good at playing a jerk.
He's great. All right, best director. Who are you rooting for? Me, it's gonna go to the Daniels, but I am personally rooting for Todd Field. Tar is a meticulously crafted film, and that's actually my pick for original screenplay too. I love for Todd Field to get a win. So
I think if there's going to be an upset this year, it's going to be Everything Everywhere winning 6 Oscars, including picture and screenplay. And they give Spielberg his 3rd directing Oscar, which
Ooh.
most of the directors who have 3 or 4 Oscars have more for non-best picture winners than they do for best picture winners.
Yeah.
And he fits that list. So I think if there's an upset this year, that's going to be the upset. And it'll not just be for The Fabelmans, it'll be for the last 2 years.
Yeah. It's like you
know, much like Steven Soderbergh winning for Traffic, because he also did Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I Todd Field doesn't make that many movies, and he came back out of the gate just swinging. And God, I love Tar so much. Like that screenplay is amazing. And what I love about the screenplay for Tar is what it doesn't show you. And I know there's some critics, cough, Richard Brody, and there's just been discourse of like, oh, Tar is a cowardly movie because it doesn't show you what she did. And I'm like, well, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is for there to be some ambiguity.
Yeah.
And other people have criticized it for like, it doesn't take a stand on cancel culture. I'm like, it's not supposed to. It's just supposed to be like, what if a person who potentially abused her power faced consequences in today's world? That's all it's supposed to be.
I actually found it comparable to Doubt. I don't know if you remember
Yes,
Doubt.
I made that comparison too.
Because I felt like Doubt, the answer for me in Doubt was that he was innocent of this, but he was guilty in the past.
Yes.
And that's how I felt about her character in Tar.
Well, but what I really liked, and I've told Eric this and I've told Todd this, but it's very easy to make a movie about a monster like Harvey Weinstein. She Said, which not a bad movie, but came out this year.
I thought it was a bad movie. Sorry. I thought that was a bad movie.
I mean, it was
it was written so poorly. I don't know.
What I liked was it showed like the footwork of getting that, like having worked in as a news librarian.
You mean the footwork Ronan did? Sorry.
Yeah. But there's, I mean, clearly the best newspaper movie that's come out in years and will be the best newspaper movie in years is Spotlight.
100% agree.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we should screen Spotlight again.
I love Spotlight. I was thrilled when that won Best Picture.
Not drag queens coming for your kids, people, but like it's very easy to make a movie about a Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Who is with again, kind of, I don't like using the monster label, but it's like he fits. He
was kind of a cartoon character. I mean, honestly.
Whereas you give us someone like Lydia Tarr, who, because she's played by Cate Blanchett, it's almost like a Hannibal Lecter style performance where you kind of want her to like you. And you do end up liking her. And she's almost sympathetic because we see like she has a daughter that she loves and she has a wife that she's with. And when you see that all start to crumble, you actually feel bad. And only then you realize, oh, but wait, she potentially drove someone to suicide.
Right.
Like it is that, because in real life, that is how those people operate. They're very charming and they will do whatever they can to stay in power. But, they're not these cartoonish villains who are twirling their mustache. Often they hide it very well. And you end up liking them. And that's why we see in like real life, when these serial killers are caught, they're like, but I live next door to them and I never suspected a thing. They were nice. So I love that what Tar does.
Presentation of a sociopath is what you're saying in a way.
But it is one where it almost kind of implicates the audience a little bit, where it's like, yeah, you thought you liked her and you want her to be innocent because she's Cate Blanchett. But
so I'm very curious who you're rooting for actress that's nominated.
Oh, so
because I know who I'm picking. I just want to know who you're picking.
I don't want you to. Don't call me a coward.
No,
I have never in my life wanted a tie more than this year, because both Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh give great performances. There has been a tie for acting once in Oscar history, and that was when Katharine Hepburn and Barbra Streisand tied. If we can get a repeat of it this year, I'd love it.
So you got to vote for one. Who do you vote for?
This is why it's hard, because I'm like, well, I would actually argue
Do
by
you
a
let
hair,
two previous wins matter?
by
the
a
question.
hair, Kate Blanchett, I think, gives
Okay.
the better performance.
Okay.
However, I don't think anyone but Michelle Yeoh could have played Evelyn. But then I go back to, I don't think anyone but Kate Blanchett could have played Tar. You see where I have my problem.
No, I would vote for Andrea or Riseborough into Leslie. I actually think she gave the best of the 5 performances
Really?
in that film.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, she is
Um,
great.
Which is why I think that the controversy about her. Should we talk about this, Todd?
Well, we have a few more to finish up, but that's the
I was
next.
about to say,
We'll get to
that was
it.
gonna be the
Still
next
stick a pin in
question,
it.
but we're almost there. Almost there.
Okay. Best actor, who you picking, Liz?
This is one where I've seen 4 out of 5 of the nominees. We actually got to see Living over the weekend. I thought, I wouldn't say like great movie, but I'm like, really good
I
acting.
just saw it last night.
And Bill Nye is, I think, fantastic. So I cannot be mad with any winner. If anyone wins, I'll be happy. But personally, I am rooting for the star of 1999's masterpiece, The Mummy, because I want both him and Rachel Weisz to have Oscars.
So I am also rooting for Brendan Fraser.
Yeah.
I'll be thrilled if Colin Farrell wins, because Colin Farrell gave 4 great performances last year. He was great as the Penguin. He was great in 13 Lives, and he's great in a little sci-fi movie called After Yang. He's done a lot of
Todd's
work last
favorites
year.
of last year, actually.
And I would argue he has a character that actually changes from the beginning of the movie to the end, which is not often in these nominations. Like, he doesn't grow, he actually devolves, but I still would vote for Brendan Fraser. It's so much more than the makeup. There's so much going on in his performance. Yeah, I would vote for Brendan Fraser as well.
Yeah. I mean, and he's well, from what I've read, it's not a race between Farrell and Fraser. It's a race between
it's Butler.
Yeah. And Butler. And here's the thing, and I'm not the only person who said this, so please don't get mad at me. I do wonder if Lisa Marie's very tragic and way too early death might sway some voters.
So Fraser won the Critics' Choice and Fraser won the Screen Actors Guild. Butler won the Golden Globe and Butler won the BAFTA, which was a huge shock.
I'd love to see the vote tallies, because I think it's same with Blanchett and Yeoh. I think it's going to come down to like single-digit votes in terms.
What I'm worried about for Fraser is, of those 4 movies, The Whale is not up for Best Picture. Elvis is up for Best Picture.
I mean, and again, not that Butler doesn't deserve it, because even
he's
if
good.
you don't like the movie,
I didn't like the movie, but I liked him. He's good, and I'm not gonna say he's not.
Yeah, we've all been over Ke Huy Quan for best supporting actress. Who would you pull for?
So actually, most of my nominees for supporting actors didn't get nominated. The only one who I would have put in the top 5 was Carrie Condon. So I'm rooting for Carrie Condon.
I'm actually rooting for Hong Chow. I liked her for a while, and I really liked her in The Whale.
Yep, I think Janelle Monáe should have been nominated for Glass Onion.
Oh.
I think, as much as I liked Hong Chow, I think Sadie Sink should have been nominated for The Whale. And I also would have nominated Claire Foy and Judith Ivey for Women Talking.
Oh, see, I would.
But that's a hard.
Yeah, I would have been.
They all cancel each other out. So
I would have been Claire Foy or Jessie Buckley, but agreed.
Which is what most people were saying. Yeah.
I mean, Jessie Buckley is great. She will get her award one day. But
it seems like it's between Bassett and Curtis in the Career Achievement Award category.
Well, what's interesting is because it seemed like Bassett was the one to beat for a while, and then Carrie Condon wins the BAFTAs and Jamie Lee Curtis wins the SAG, and now it's like, oh.
Yeah, Jamie's biggest problem is that she's up against Stephanie. But Sam Rockwell was able to win with Woody, so that's it. That can still happen.
I mean, I'm going to say this. I'm marveled out. I'm on record of being marveled out. And I actually saw Black Panther 2. I was still reeling for the death of Watanuki in June, and then literally a day later, we lost Hilo. So I'm like, I don't know if I can ever go back to this movie now. But
go ahead.
Angela Bassett brings it in that movie. She acts like she is in a Shakespearean production. She does not phone it in. And we're in phase what now? A lot of the actors are phoning it in at this point. Angela Bassett does not. When she yelled that have I not lost everything? Yeah. I started crying in the theater. I'm
like, damn you, Marvel movies.
I know, but it's one where it's like, I walked away from that movie going, I really wish this was all about Queen Ramonda and not Shuri. And I think that is the sign of a good supporting performance if you're like, I wish I had more of that actor.
That's how I felt about Lupita Nyong'o in the first one. I thought she stole the whole movie.
Yeah, no, it's so if as much as I'm marveled out, if Angela Bassett wins, I will be like, this is not just career achievement. I mean, it is, but she also earns it in that movie. She 100% earns it.
So one category we haven't talked about at all is best animated film.
Okay. I know you don't like Turning Red. So.
I love the other four.
All right.
I hate Turning Red. Yes, we've talked about pretty much my bottom 5 movies this year.
I'm just gonna say, and I don't like to pull this out, but I don't like Turning Red was not made for you.
Damn right.
But I, as a former teen girl who grew up in that time period, I actually watched them like, man, I wish I had this movie when I was a teen.
Is that your pick? Is that really your pick? And before you say your pick, I need to show you something.
No, that is not my pick.
Because how anyone can pick anything aside from Marcel, I don't understand.
I was about to say, as much as I love Turning Red, and it was actually in my top 10 for last year.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a best animated feature, I would pick Marcel the Shell, because once again, we are seeing an animated movie push the boundaries for what an animated movie can be.
I didn't want that movie to end. I thought that was one of the sweetest things I've ever seen. I absolutely love that movie. This figure that I bought comes with a little box that has a thing you can fold over him, and it says you could throw it away, but instead fold it because it might rain.
Yeah,
no.
It was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is gonna win. I have not watched it. I have never. Pinocchio.
It's not bad, but it's honestly, I think the other 3 that I liked are better. I was surprised by Puss in Boots and Sea Beast. I was shocked that they were both good.
I am just at this point of it is about dang time the Academy recognizes stop motion animation. They've been sleeping on Laika for years. There's no way Brave was a better movie than Paranorman. I'm sorry. I'm still 10 years later, I'm still bitter about that loss. But I mean, hey, Guillermo del Toro's great. I am okay with him getting more awards, but I'm really pulling for Marcel the Shell. And again, for the 13-year-old girl that I used to be, I really did love Turning Red. Like the whole thing where she's just like, oh, what if I disappoint my parents? Or oh God, what if people think I'm weird? I'm like, oh boy, this is really making me feel things. And again, I just put it as like I feel like this was a movie that was made for a very specific audience. And
well, it's funny because that was my review. I have to be a 12-year-old girl to like this, and I think if I was a 12-year-old girl, I still wouldn't like it.
Oh, I disagree. I know what is funny is many women I know are like, I love this movie. This was and again, kind of I wish I'd had this movie when I was younger.
That being said, I don't know what I put in its place. I didn't really see anything else that I thought was great this year.
I think this year is the year Hayao Miyazaki is returning to animation. So I'm just gonna say, watch out, everybody.
I'm gonna throw that controversial hand grenade out there. Mad God should have got a nomination.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I forgot about Mad God. Yeah,
it's I don't think that's getting an Academy Award nomination.
No, that's not. Yeah, that's a Saturn Award movie.
All right, moving on because we have I think with 3 questions left.
Yeah, so we've been teasing the audience with it for a while now. Let's get into it. The controversy surrounding Andrea Riseborough's nomination. Do you guys think there's anything there, or is this some PR people making a tempest in a teapot?
I mean, yeah, it's very clearly there is a studio / producer that is very mad that their movie or their main actress didn't get nominated. I actually had a
Jill or the Woman King.
Yeah, I'm starting to think Gina Prince Bythewood was the one spearheading it. I did think it was gross that there were people trying to blame Viola Davis, and I'm like, Viola Davis has an Oscar. Viola Davis is an EGOT. Viola Davis, I am sure, did not care.
They didn't break any rules. In 1996, Billy Bob Thornton put the tape of Sling Blade out to as many people as he could get. Elizabeth Taylor watched it and made sure all of her friends watched it. When he won an Oscar, the first thing he did was thank Elizabeth Taylor.
Yep.
Now, if he had given Elizabeth Taylor a Mercedes to watch it, that would have been the problem. But he didn't. Just people it'd be like me seeing RRR telling Liz, you really should see RRR. Oh, now you got disqualified. No, it doesn't make any sense. It's dumb. And the only reason it happened is because a Christian song, which the writer of 10 years ago went a little too far and did do something wrong. Got
Oh, that was
nominated.
Alone Yet Not Alone. You're right.
Got
God,
nominated and
yeah.
got disqualified because he personally emailed all of the members of the music branch the song. And I actually think he might have been the music branch head at the time. And so that was like, that's going a little too far. But this, I don't think there's a problem.
No, and Andrea Riseborough has been working for years. She is a great actress. She, like, I actually think this whole investigation is a good reminder to people, for as much as actors are usually at the forefront of the awards, the Oscars are truly for the producers and the studios. Because it's very telling that when she was nominated in the whole investigation
That wasn't
happened,
supposed to happen. Yeah.
the first people that jumped to her defense were the actors, including other nominees. Michelle Yeoh and Cate
Kate
Blanchett
Blanchett, yeah.
were both like, no, I think this is fine.
Also, it's not like she came out of nowhere. If you pay attention to goldderby.com, which I'm a awards geek, so
same.
I do. She was like number 7 all year.
Yeah.
But and I think Anna was 6. So number 6 and 7 got in, and Dead Ryler and Davis didn't.
Yeah. And it's again, it's one where it's like the fact, like, she has been acting for years, for over a decade at least. She Hollywood is not as interconnected as some people think it is, but she has worked in so many small movies.
She's a character actress, which we don't talk about very often.
Like, people know who she is, and she has been someone that people have talked about for years. Like, oh, she's so good. I loved working with her on this. So the fact that her peers were the ones who were lauding her, it's like, no, I think this is good. If anything, it's nice to see that a studio didn't shell out money to get a nomination like Netflix did for Ana de Armas.
So as a populist, I'm thrilled that movies like Top Gun and Avatar got acknowledged. But the part of the point of these awards is also to nominate to Leslie, which I hadn't even heard of, and I pay attention to everything.
Or Living.
And so I went and I watched it, and I loved it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Same thing happened with Sling Blade. I didn't hear about that till he got nominated for Best Actor. I was like, what the hell is this?
Oh, this movie's good. Exactly.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I think, I think half the reason sometimes they have this, like, I've never heard of this movie, is the studio's fault, because they don't think anyone outside of New York, LA wants to see these movies. But it's it's like, these awards are for, if we're just talking about it as a meritocracy, and we know it really isn't, because there's a lot of like money and campaigning involved. But shouldn't we have everything from the biggest blockbuster of the year to these small indie movies if we're just supposed to be looking at the best of the year?
That's why the late 90s, early 2000s were the best, because they had to publicize every movie.
Yep.
So you had like the Scarlet Letter being pushed for Best Actress in Hollywood Reporter, which is hilarious. But they pushed everything because it was in everybody's contracts.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm with you. It's like, clearly some studio got really mad, and it probably was the studio that put out The Woman King. But it's like,
the Academy made the right choice, thankfully. I mean, if they had disqualified her, I think that would have been horrible.
I feel like they were just going through the motions to be like, okay, we don't want a studio mad at us, let's just do this. I kind of wonder how much the Academy wanted to do it, or if they were just kind of like, all right, for the sake of optics, let's do it.
I just wonder if there's anyone on the fence who was like, I was on the fence between Blanchett and Riseborough, but screw this, I'm voting for Riseborough. I just wonder,
If she ends up winning, I am gonna laugh. But no, I think if anything, she's overdue for recognition. So I'm like, yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Next up, last year we saw the Academy try. We kind of discussed some of the other things the Academy did last year. One of the things which we saw was they were really essentially trying to reinvent the wheel to up the ratings. This was things like the Twitter fan awards. We're going to take all the technicals off the air just so you guys aren't staying up in the airs, that kind of thing.
And everyone got angrier.
And not only did that not work for them, it got overshadowed by something we'll be coming to after this. Given how that whole experiment kind of just fizzled out, do you think they're just going to accept it, go back to what works, or do you think they're going to continue to try and find new ways to, again, reinvent the wheel?
Want me to go first on this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing with the Academy. If you look at the history of the Academy, the most popular, most watched shows were when E.T. was nominated. It was when Titanic was nominated. It was when The Return of the King was nominated. Okay. The tipping point came in 2008 when they could have nominated The Dark Knight and or Wall-E, and they nominated Frost Nixon and The Reader. Okay, that's why we have 10 nominations now. What?
Ross Nixon's not that bad.
Well, all I gotta say is there are two movies from 2008 that the National Film Registry has selected, and those two films are The
I
Dark
know.
Knight and Wall-E. So that was the tipping point. Now, this year's interesting. The two most money-making films got nominated for Best Picture, somewhat surprisingly. They're not going to win. I think Top Gun Maverick had a chance until it lost the Producers Guild. I think it would have had to win there. But how does the telecast go when a popular movie is nominated but doesn't have a chance to win? We're gonna have to see. There's the more people have watched the movies this year than they have in a lot of the most recent years, and I think that's what makes people watch the Oscars. I don't think any of their goofy, Army of the Dead won the fan award. Yeah, sure it did. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think if I'm with you, if they want people to be invested in these shows, make these films available. And as I said earlier, a lot of these movies, like I've had to drive to see Women Talking. I had to drive, I mean, I had drive to see Banshees of Inisherin. So Hollywood, if you want people to get invested in these movies, release them outside of the cities. And it is like this fairly like condescending view of anywhere outside of New York and LA. It's like, what do you think? All we want to watch is MCU? No, there's a lot of us who would like to have a whole bevy of different movies to watch.
I'd like to make a side point to what you just said. Whatever you think of Crash, Crash and The Silence of the Lambs came out in the first 3 months of the years that they won Best Picture.
Oh yeah.
If you make a good enough movie, you don't have to have it be the last minute, oh, it's going to win. Everything Everywhere came out earlier this year.
I was about to say, I know you don't like Everything Everywhere, but that came out in April, and that movie has had like a sustained cultural presence, like because people are doing the googly eyes. There were a lot of people doing hot dog hands for Halloween. Again, like it or not, this is a movie that came out earlier in the year that people are still talking about. And it is a movie that grew with its release. It started out small and word of mouth got it bigger, and studios do not allow for word of mouth to happen that much anymore. I was talking about speaking of a crowd-pleasing movie that everyone loved, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which I recently rewatched, and it overall holds up really well. But that is a movie that started small and eventually made $250 million. If that was made today, that probably would have been buried on Netflix, or studio would have just put it in like indie theaters theaters for a week. So studios, if you want people to care about this, release the stuff wider, give this more, put more, there are a lot of people who would probably like love to see a movie like Women Talking. Or I don't know
2 weeks ago, I still hadn't seen Women Talking, The Whale, or Living, and I was like, am I gonna be able to see them before the Oscars? I mean, come on.
Exactly. It's so we go to the Red River Theater up in Concord. Apparently,
I like the theater.
Yeah, but their distributor had been kind of playing not so nice games with them, basically saying like, oh, we don't know if there's an audience for this movie here. So they eventually got The Whale for a limited engagement, and they said, we had so many people contact our distributor to get Women Talking, they thought that this was a prank, and they realized, oh no, there's an audience for this in Concord, New Hampshire. So a lot of this is, the studios, I think, just have a very dim view about what a lot of Americans want to watch. And I'm like, well, that's just condescending. And then they're shocked when nobody watches the award shows because, like, well, I've never seen this, so shrug. Also, hey, release, start paying attention to horror. Horror hounds are a very loyal group of people. We will watch.
Hey, you'll get ratings if you nominated some of those horrors. Yeah,
if you nominate Mia Goth, people would be like, we're coming for our Scream Queen.
Can you imagine if like an Exorcist came out now and got 11 nominations? I mean, people would go crazy.
I know. Oh, all right. I think we're the last question. Todd,
I wonder what that one could be.
Yeah.
Okay, we've danced around it long enough. Let's address the elephant in the room, the slappening. Overall, what do you think of the situation as it was, how it played out the rest of the night? And do you think we're going to be seeing any sort of, no pun intended, impact of it on this year's ceremony?
You've been waiting all night to make that joke, haven't you? I mean, controversial opinion potentially here. I think the Academy should thank Will Smith because that's the most people have talked about the Oscars in years.
I mean, the fact we're still talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to say, should Will Smith have gone and slapped Chris Rock in front of everybody? Absolutely not. I mean, if he wanted to go up there and kind of, with a smile on his face, go up to Chris Rock and say, hey, keep my wife's name out of your mouth, that would have been fine. It would have been funny. But yeah, no, you shouldn't hit a person in public or ever. Like, but yeah, no, completely uncalled for. But I think some of the reaction to it is a little over the top. Does Will Smith need some time away from the Oscars? Yes, I think 10 years is a little much. Like, and the way people talked about it was very, you'd think that he beat Chris Rock within an inch of his life. And it's like, no, he just open palm slapped him. And like, Chris Rock has been making jokes about Jada Pinkett Smith for years. And I don't know.
Good jokes too.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Will was drunk that night. Maybe he just kind of felt, you do not make this joke in front of not at the Oscars, not my wife sitting next to me. I don't know what was going through his head, but it's like, hey, it's one of the most memorable things to happen in a long time. And I do think he should get some kind of reprimand for it. But the talk about like, this is like unimaginable violence at the Oscars and taking his Oscar away. I was just watching that. I'm like, you guys gave Roman Polanski an Oscar 20 years ago, and we all knew what Roman Polanski had done, and we all knew why he couldn't be in California, why he can't even be in the country. And the Academy could have just said, sorry, we're not nominating him, we're taking him off the table. Woody Allen has had multiple awards. And even after all the stuff about when Dylan Farrow came forward, and I think very bravely, because there are still film bros online who are like, oh no, she's a liar and she was manipulated by Mia. I mean, the Academy did learn their lesson, and Polanski and Allen have not been nominated. But there was never any talk of their Oscars being rescinded. And I think the violence that Allen and Polanski committed far outweighs an open palm slap across the face.
So to be fair, that was talk. The Academy didn't choose to do that, which I agree with. I mean, take the Oscar away.
Yeah.
You know, that was talk by people that didn't really know what they were talking about.
Okay.
I think 10 years is adequate.
Really?
So
I'd go for 5.
Lifetime is not adequate.
Mhm.
10 years is adequate because he made it worse. He didn't just go up and slap him. He sat down, he had it continue, and then he gave an acceptance speech that was similar to a wife beater. Very uncomfortable. You know, he's the emissary of love. My issue with Will Smith, there a couple of wrestlers actually tweeted out that night some interesting things. Mick Foley made the point that if The Rock had made that joke, there'd be no slap.
That's true, probably.
It was only made because the guy was half his size. I got to give Chris Rock tons of credit, because if you watch, Chris Rock goes, I could, nope, and then presents best documentary, because what he was about to say was how many people in the audience Jada had cheated on Will with, as he had said in his recent stand-up 2 nights ago. I think it's terrible for stand-up comics. I think in this era where everything you say is fine until I'm personally offended. Now they got to deal with people coming up and hitting them, which we've already seen has now happened more than just him.
Oh yeah, no, there have been comedians who've had like water bottles thrown at them.
Yeah. Now that being said, I want to focus on the Academy, because I think the biggest problem that night is that the Academy didn't have somebody in charge, because you can't say the director is in charge, because the director is there to make good TV, and good TV is having Will Smith give an acceptance speech. Okay. That's good television. What you needed was someone to say, you just committed an assault, and in 10 minutes everyone's going to stand up and cheer for you, and those optics are terrible, so you need to leave. Now they have changed it. I don't know if you know this, there's now a crisis team that will be on the floor for every Oscars that will make the hard decisions. Nothing's going to happen for another 15 years. No. These things, you know what I mean? You can count on one hand the memorable things like this.
Well, I mean, to the question of slap to speech, this is another that goes into the last few years. You've had a growing number of instances of, you want proof that nobody knows what's going on until those envelopes are opened. We have Moonlight winning Best Picture. We have Will Smith
Chadwick
slap.
not winning.
We have Anthony
Chadwick
Hopkins
not
going to
winning,
bed,
that's a
wake
good
up the next
one.
morning to find out he got Best Actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like I would say Will Smith should be out for 5 years. Because it's I also kind of maybe I know someone who has alopecia, and I know how sensitive they are about it. And also I'm just gonna say the G.I. Joe Jake, it's not funny. It's like, my dude, like Furiosa's right there. You could have
That's not why he
chosen
hit
one.
him. He hit him
Oh,
for the
I know.
joke from 7 years ago, which I would love
Yeah.
to say because it's hilarious, but I can't say it here.
Well, and it's just one where I looked at it as like, I think this was a very private beef that went very public. And it was uncomfortable for everyone involved, even though I said, like, the greatest thing about that is you see Lupita Nyong'o slowly realizing, oh, this is not a bit. Oh no. Oh boy. And yeah, no, it's not fun for everybody because everyone's like, do we clap? Do we boo?
Well, the night was actually going pretty good, and the 3 hosts were actually doing well, and then all of a sudden it was like, and can we just end the show now, please? Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Let's give Coda the award and go home.
yeah, I just kind of felt that the hand wringing by some of the members of the Academy to be a little, I'm like, not a fan, because again, I'm like, I may be younger than some of the people here, but I'm old enough to remember Roman Polanski getting that Oscar and having people stand up and applaud. I'm like, again, we all know what Roman Polanski did and why he.
And I still say that
American.
this is not, as time goes on, this is not going to be the #1 issue. If anyone knows the history of the Oscars, go back and watch Vanessa Redgrave's acceptance speech in 1977. That is still the #1 most controversial thing to ever happen at the Oscars.
Just like Eek. Yep.
And then watch Patty Chachapsky's response to it, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna get out of pocket this year. But it is also a bummer because, again, as you pointed out, now the host is gonna be like, oh god, now do I have to make sure I don't make fun of anybody?
And Jimmy Fallon pointed out, I think the one of the biggest issues was it wasn't like someone in the crowd. It wasn't like Jack Nicholson getting upset or Ray Liotta. Sean Penn. Sean Penn's has a history of things. We look at Will Smith and Tom Hanks as like 2 of the nicest guys.
Well, that's what was so shocking.
And that's what it was. It was like, oh wow, and wait, this is your night. You just did this on your night. You didn't ruin someone else's night. You just ruined your night. What are you?
Yeah, and I think that's partially why everyone was so shocked, because I mean, Sean Penn won 2 Oscars, documented abuser.
Yeah.
Speaking of like violence, but I think if he had done that, I think if it had been Sean Penn, there would have been someone stopping him by the time he stood up. But I think it was Will Smith. I think most people thought like, oh, is he gonna go up and make a cheeky joke?
Well, the director even thought that. The director's like, oh, they didn't tell me about this bit. Why didn't they tell?
Well,
wait, what just happened?
well, I remember I was doing laundry and Todd was like following the awards on Twitter, and you're like, oh my god. I'm like, wait, what happened? You're like, Will Smith just slapped Chris Rock. I'm like, as a bit? And you're like, no.
At first, it wasn't even that. It was more like, so something just happened, and I don't know what, because all the posts are just saying, oh my god, what just happened?
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a more boring night, but we're probably gonna have a lot of like really good heartfelt speeches from Ki Hae Kwan and Brendan Fraser, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
let's look forward to that.
The Encino Man duo.
Yeah, like let's look forward to that. Just like the nice Oscars of just everyone winning and everyone being.
So this would be the night everyone's just, oh, good for you.
It's the nice warm and fuzzy Oscars.
There you go. That's what we're gonna get.
Which I mean, I'm as of right now, Infinity Pool is my favorite movie of 2023, so I'm gonna be rooting for that next year. It's not a fun movie for a lot of people. All right, do we have anything else that we're rooting for? Because we got about like 10 minutes left. Or actually, Todd, didn't we want to do the lightning round of going down the 10 nominees of do we think they should be there, yes or no?
I mean, if you guys are for it, by all means.
Okay, Todd, read them off.
1 moment. So I got to make sure I have these in proper order here. Please bear with me.
Alphabetical is fine.
Just
Or I've got them in front of me. I can read them off. All's Quiet on the Western Front. Yay or nay?
Nay.
I'm gonna have to. I haven't seen it, so can't say either
Okay.
way. Avatar: Way of Water.
Hell yes.
I would say I haven't seen
You
it.
haven't
but
seen it, but
I would
I
say
know you
no
don't like the
because
first
I
one,
want
so-
RRR there. Banshees of Inisherin.
yes.
Yes. Elvis.
No.
I'd say yes.
There's so many better Elvis movies. Kurt Russell's TV movie's better.
I don't know. It's Baz Luhrmann and it goes hard. I'm okay with it.
Ugh.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm yes. I know you're a no.
I'm cleaning out my vomit. Sorry.
All right. The Fablemans.
Yes.
Yeah. I wasn't as enthusiastic about that movie. Great Judd Hirsch performance though. Tar.
You know, I'm gonna say no for top 10, but I liked it. I don't want to be like insulting to it, but it wouldn't have made my top 10.
Oh, I'm a very enthusiastic
Yeah.
yes. Top Gun Maverick.
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
I mean, again, it wasn't for me, but if I'm going to nominate one blockbuster this year, I'm like, yeah. I mean, your point of what it did what Creed did, which is like, let's take this thing and let's elevate it and give it more emotional heft. I do.
I also
agree
want to
with
make
that.
I want to make a somewhat controversial statement.
Okay.
I think Tom Cruise should have been the 5th choice for Best Actor this year because
Mm.
it's not Best Acting, it's Best Performance. And I think he should have made the top 5.
I
I
don't-
love Peter Mescal and I loved After Sun, but it didn't do it for me like the way the other ones did.
I just look at Tom Cruise as I don't want to say he's playing himself, but I don't think he has a self to play. I think Tom Cruise is so guarded in everything we see as public persona. There was a time where he could give a performance. I don't.
Oh,
think
I
he
still
could-
think he's a great actor. I still think he's Paul Newman. He just hasn't aged.
I mean, agree to. I mean, I'd love to. If I had to pick anyone to get an acting nomination, Val Kilmer for supporting.
Oh, I mean, like Judd Hirsch, he was only in one scene, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he killed it. That scene, I think that scene got them the screenplay nomination too.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah. Triangle of Sadness. Yay or nay?
Same thing as Tar. I say nay, but I liked it.
Oh, I'd say yay. It's a difficult movie at times, but I always support movies where it's like you take a swing and women talking. Absolutely yay.
Absolute yay. Yeah, I was shocked by how much I love that movie.
Yeah. All right. So, in about 6 days, we are going to see who's right. I think barring something insane happening, it probably is Everything Everywhere's year.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll eventually come around to that movie.
Doubtful.
But I would also another win I'd love to see, and it's looking like she might get it. Sarah Polley for adapted screenplay.
Oh, I think so. I think if Top Gun didn't have 5 screenwriters, it'd have more of a chance, but they don't like to give it to written on committee. They usually
Yeah.
like to give it to 1 or 2 people, so I think Sarah Polley's gonna win.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I've been kind of watching her since The Sweet Hereafter, kind of seeing how she has evolved as an actress and as a creator. It's been a really amazing journey. So, alrighty, I will let everyone get home for tonight. Have
Thanks,
a good night,
everybody.
everyone, and we'll see how this all pans out next Sunday. Have a good
Thank
night.
you. Bye-bye.
Great job,
Bye.
everybody.